Welcome to the next part of the course. This module will present further information concerning security of the Linux system. We'll start with the threats a Windows user switching to Linux can be exposed to. Let's start with the basic question. Is Linux secure or not? Many people will claim that it's a super secure system, and that a user doesn't really need to care about security, because Linux is resistant to all kinds of attacks. Unlike Windows, which is full of security holes. One can hear such popular opinions often. Are they true? To some extent. The architecture of Linux operating system is totally different from Windows. You need to appreciate this fact. It's more difficult to conduct an attack on a computer running Linux. The system has been designed to be resistant to common threats such as viruses. However, the user must follow certain rules. If, for example, you're connected to a public network, and your computer isn't password protected, you can be sure that within 2 or 3 days, your computer will be infested with applications, allowing someone to take control over your system, and you won't even be able to notice it. If users adhere to certain basic principles, the system will stay secure because it's secure by design. You must also be aware of the fact that attacks on Linux systems are different. The most common threat for Windows users are computer viruses that try to damage files. This threat doesn't apply to Linux systems. We'll talk about it in more detail while describing different forms of threats. Means of ensuring security in Linux are completely different. In Windows, it's sufficient that you turn on the firewall and install antivirus software. You don't really need them in Linux, however, especially antivirus programs. Firewall may be more useful, but it isn't necessary. As Scott Greneman once said, to mess up a Linux box, you need to work at it. To mess up your Windows box, you just need to work on it. There is some truth to it. Windows systems, due to the way they are designed, are inherently exposed to many threats connected with users' everyday work. Sometimes it boils down to clicking on a dangerous link, or inadvertently opening a malicious program. Such opportunities are often enough for a virus to attack the system. In the Linux environment, a potential attacker must be a little more ingenious. On the other hand, this doesn't mean that you can't break into a computer running Linux. Let's start from the fact that Linux was designed from scratch, and its creators wanted the system to allow many users to work simultaneously. Therefore, in Linux, user privileges are separated. There are also mechanisms that prevent users from inadvertent actions that could compromise security. Although you can create multiple user accounts in Windows, only one user can work at any given time. Usually, this user has a full set of privileges. Note, for example, that once you install Windows, the default user account has administrator privileges and is not protected by a password. Windows wasn't, in fact, designed to be a multi-user system. Though you can enforce privilege separation in the system, it's not part of its architecture. Linux was also designed for computer networks. Each component can be a part of a distributed system. The client-server approach is also typical for Linux. That's why the system won't allow remote access from applications. The system is more resistant to these threats as they're connected to working with computer networks. Windows got network support only after some time. Bill Gates used to be of an opinion that the internet wouldn't catch on. He didn't believe that it could have such a huge impact on software development and on life in general. Due to these architectural differences in the systems, Linux is the more secure one. Having said that, you must keep in mind that Linux's security isn't unconquerable. Sometimes all the attackers need to break into a computer is one weak password. There's much that a user can do to make the system both more and less secure. so the responsibility is on the user. A responsible Windows user will secure their system so that it will be hard to compromise. Likewise, an equally responsible Linux user will make his system literally impossible to compromise. Responsibility is, therefore, a key element here. A person underestimating security issues will probably make his Linux more vulnerable to threats than a Windows system used by someone who cares about security.